let's welcome Murtaugh and Riggs, otherwise known as Everett Downing Jr. and Patrick Harpin. They're the duo behind the upcoming Netflix series that fulfills my personal craving for epic Black people in space. That series is My Dad, the Bounty Hunter. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about, your craving. I know, Everett, you talked about this a little bit earlier about your craving to see, Black folks in space. So
yeah, I could speak on it. I've always been a big sci-fi fan, and love animation, since I was a small kid. And there was this appetite, for obviously diversity, seeing ourselves out there, but there's a big lack, right? And I felt specifically, I brought it up during our presentation, but that Finn moment for me, that was a big deal, you know what I mean? And I felt like the ball got dropped, and I was like, come on, man, the promise is there. And right around that time, that's when Afrofuturism was starting to get, people really starting to become aware of it and stuff. And I was like, no, this is something, if there's any place, the future, we can put ourselves in the future, right? And feel good about it, right? So, it was just kind of a no-brainer for me. I was kind of like, hold my beer, let me take care of this,
Well, I love that. So to get everybody caught up, because I enjoyed this series so much, by the way, can you guys tell us about the pitch? How did you get My Dad, the Bounty Hunter sold?
I mean, a poster and a scriptment. That was pretty much it. A really great poster designed by Brandon Wu, who's an artist who ended up working on the show. And we had the story figured out because we originally pitched it as a movie. So we basically knew the whole thing. We could just pitch it on the fly. And people were I think they bought into the premise and they bought into where we wanted to go with it. It was a smoother process to getting it bought than anything I think either of us have ever been a part of.
I adore your references for this so much. The Last Starfighter, Time Bandits, Brother from Another Planet. Yep. I mean, you guys just kept coming with these influences. So can you tell me which ones played more into the story and which ones were more about character or visual?
I think some of the biggest ones, definitely one that's kind of coming out is the winner's sort of fifth element. I think that really informed the tone a lot of the show, because we did want something colorful and vibrant and playful, but still kind of you still want that action that's grounded and gratifying, right?
Yes.
And then of course, you mentioned Last Starfighter, that was an influence, but we're more influenced by some of the gritty sci-fi, Alien was a big one, for us as well. So yeah.
You know what? Also, Brother from Another Planet. That movie actually, I feel that would be a great double feature with Terminator, because those movies to me are actually way more similar than people think. And the fact that you're dealing with Earth, racial politics, but then these aliens, they don't know any of that.
They don't know about it.
They're just coming in with their own beef. And so you have those guys who are, it's the John Sayles and the other actor coming down, and they're just aliens looking for this guy. They don't know, do they appear white? And it was just sci-fi messing with that, because it's these are aliens. They have different rules, and no one in the show is going to talk to our characters. They're just oh, you're just humans. You're Earthlings. That's all we know you as. We don't know about Earthlings. You guys are crazy.
Yeah, you're all one people.
Yeah, right. And so it's it's kind of it's a cool thing that you can do. That was stuff that was definitely on our minds, and being playful with that. And even in Alien, where we're talking about keeping it real, keeping it these are truckers, these are regular, where Dad doesn't even, I don't know if we actually put this in script. In our minds, Dad doesn't even own his own ship. It's on lease. You know what I mean? Just keep limiting the no, he's not Tony Stark.
Yeah.
He's working 9 to 5 in space.
Yeah.
Blue collar superhero.
I really liked that too, that you guys talk about blue collar sci-fi. You talk about the way the conglomerate plays in, Terry Dad's Sable's boss is like the worst boss ever. He's the guy that you don't want, right?
Yep.
And I loved that you worked into that, you know, him renting his rig. The whole thing does feel very grounded. Why was that so important?
Well, we feel like when it's more grounded, it's a lot more relatable, and people buy into the storytelling and the characters more. You know, like that's the stuff. When everything is kind of fun and jokey and like a little bit hard to believe, it's hard to connect with that stuff. And you find yourself sitting back like, oh, it's like it's a punch fest. Like there's no repercussions to anything. Nobody gets hurt. Everything's a joke, you know, and it just kind of, they're all barriers between us, like between us getting to story. And we're like, no, we want to put that right in front of, so we want people to relate. Like, oh yeah, I don't get a chance to spend that much time with my kids either. And like, oh, I've been in that situation and I got called into work on an emergency. And even though I promised my kids I would spend time with them for the weekend, I gotta disappoint them, you know? Like, that's all that relatable stuff that gets you to buy into the characters in the situation.
I totally agree. Okay, so we don't have a lot of time, but a big thing for both of you was that your villains feel grounded.
Yeah.
And I wondered, how do you differentiate an antagonist from a villain? And then how do you make the villain tangible without this kind of new thing of, oh, the villain was right, which we don't want, right? So, how do you do that?
I mean, we definitely have like, you know, Glorlox is an antagonist.
Yeah.
I think you're getting to like, he's not really the big bad. I think you're probably sussing that out. But
yeah, he's like an angry ex.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
He's just like
exactly.
He's just a complication. But I think with the villains, you know, if you think about what your villains want, where it's like this guy, I don't like villains that are just, I'm evil. It's like, that's boring. It's like, this guy is like, yeah, it's like, this is someone who's like, hey, we're trying to protect our interests. I need this person disappeared. And it's like, that's real life. That's what scares me, you know? And I think that's kind of how we try to approach them, is like, let's give them a real reason for like why they're doing these things. Like Dune was great at that. We didn't talk about Dune. We didn't talk about Dune at all, but like in Dune, where it's not just good and evil like Star Wars, Dune is like, it's about money and spice.
Yeah.
yes.
You gotta have that
flow. Yes.
Yeah, the spice must flow.
Yeah. And one thing we also talked about really quickly, we also talked, like, I think the difference, I think you want antagonists and villains, right? Because like antagonists, the difference between an antagonist and a villain is at one point the antagonist realizes like they can change, right? They can change, but a villain never learns that lesson, you know. And that's the thing. Like you want to be able to make that distinction of like, no, given the opportunity, they would do it the same way all over again. You know, they wouldn't change a thing.
Well, I have to wrap it out, but thank you both so much. Next time, I'm going to ask you about your favorite fictional universe, but thank you so much to Patrick Harpin and Everett Downing. This is Shireen from Geek Girl Riot, and I can't wait for you all to see My Dad, the Bounty Hunter.